Morning. How we doing? Great. Daniel?
Yeah,
Floor is yours.
Okay. Well, you've kind of talked a little bit about Connor McDavid and his contract situation. I guess we'll start maybe an update. And the other thing I guess I would ask is, do you have to make a sales pitch to him at this point? What are the conversations like? Because we're kind of taking the money out of it, we think. So what are the conversations like in trying to get him back?
I think the conversations with Connor are always more, I wouldn't say it's a sales pitch as much as just it's a dialogue when he has questions or I don't want to get into what we talk about. But I think it's more free-flowing conversations. Like I've gotten to know him now. I've been here for a year, and I feel like we can just sit down and talk hockey or talk about things that are on his mind, things about the current team or the future team. And I've done that not just recently, but also throughout the last season. Like I find he's got a real good pulse on the team as well. I mean, as the leader and the captain, I think he has thoughts on things, and I want to understand that so that I can, kind of working together on it. So I would say it's not so much a sales pitch as it is just a conversation, and it goes in a bunch of different directions usually.
I feel like the conversations are more about the next year's team than they are even this year?
Well, it's a blend of that. I would say he does ask me about like where do I envision things, so that's a part of it. We talk about this year too. We talked about what did we do well last year? What do we think we could change or should change? So I would say it's not limited to just one thing, but it does definitely touch on future.
Have an update on Zach Hyman as we head toward camp and into the season here?
No, I don't. I think we're doing the medicals and stuff today. I'm sure we'll get an announcement out at some point, but I know he's doing well in his rehab. As far as his timeline, though, I don't have that yet.
Hey, Stan. How confident are you that you will get something, Connor, and what gives you that confidence?
Well, I just go by what Connor says, which is he wants nothing more than to win in Edmonton. So, I take him at his word. He's going through his own process, and I think you have to understand that and respect it. And I do. And when he's ready, he'll be ready. So, I realize that's on everyone's mind in the media and the fans, and it's on our mind too. But it's one of those things where we've had multiple conversations, and he's been very consistent with what he's been saying to the media as well as to myself, and so we just kind of go with it from there.
And I want to ask you about the salary cap increasing, and it looks like it'll go from 95 to 100, 113, maybe 120. How does that present the problem with a long-term contract when you have a number, and then that number could increase for a player like Connor who's eligible to get 20% of the cap?
Right. I mean, when I talk to Connor, I've never gotten the impression that he's really focused on money. Like, that's not. So I don't. It may be, but I'm just saying when I talk to him, I just don't get that impression that he's all about winning. He never talks about I need to make this much money. So, I mean, the cap is going up, which I think is it's great for our league. It shows that the league is healthy and the revenues are growing, and when that happens, salaries escalate. How that exactly relates to Connor, he would be in a better position to answer that one than me. But I think it's obviously better than the cap flatlining or going down. So, yeah.
Stan, you've also got a couple of defensemen, Walman and Ekholm, going into their last years. Do you wait to see what happens with Connor before you sign them, or what's the progress here?
No, I think we have had sort of preliminary discussions with a bunch of people who are going into their last year of the deal, not just the two you named, but there's other players as well. I don't know if we're going to wrap all those up in the next little bit, or if it'll bleed into the season, or if we'll wait until next year. But we've had a number of players going into the final year of their contracts that we've already engaged with their agents and had positive conversations. Nothing to report as being near the end, but a lot of encouraging discussions. So I don't think one is related to the other.
And in terms of Hyman, if the doctors say, you can't go on the ice, at his age, does it matter when he gets back and skates? He's 33 years old, but he's been in a lot of training camps.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to miss much time if he misses any. So I'm not worried about Zach Hyman, no. I mean, if he doesn't skate for a day or two, that doesn't matter. Like you said, he's a vet. He's a pro. He's going to be, we saw last year how valuable he was, and he's going to be a big player for us this year.
Thank you.
Stan, you have a few new forwards coming in. One of the guys, I know you went and visited him, and he told me in Sweden when you signed Tomasik. Him, he can play center, he can play right wing. Trent Frederick has said he prefers center or right wing over left wing.
Right.
When you have your conversations with Kris, how much of the year is going to be about experimenting with different? You have a lot of guys who can play center or wing.
Right. Well, that's something we've talked a lot about in the last few days, actually, leading into going on the ice tomorrow. I think we want to give a few different looks and see how it goes. I think David Tomasek has been a very good center, and but he can play wing. I think he's probably more of a natural center, and he's a righty, which we don't have a lot of those. We got Lazar and Philp, and Tomasek are the three centers that shoot right. So, and we didn't really have that element last year. And Derek Ryan didn't play a big role, so we had all lefties. So I'm excited to see how David. I mean, David has looked very good in the captain skates, in which I try not to put too much positive or negative in that. But I think it does stand out when you watch him. He can shoot the puck. He can really, I'm not surprised that he led the Swedish league in goal scoring. He's got a knack for getting open. He's got the ability to get the puck off his stick quickly and in the net. So I think that's an intriguing option for us. But then the other side of it is, he's got that offensive flair. He could be a good winger for one of the top centers too. So I think we are going to see how that looks over the next 2 weeks here. And not just him, like you said, we've got, Nuge has played a lot of center, but also a lot of wing lately. I think he's probably able to do both. But I think, we like him in the middle, and I think we're definitely going to try him there. Not that we need to try him out. It's not that he can't play center. It's more how do the wingers match with the other centers. So that's what the next 2 weeks is really going to be about for me and for our coaches, is to see how the pieces come together.
On the blue line, Ekholm Bouchard seems an obvious one. Walman and Nurse played very limited together, but when they did, they played well. Do you kind of put them, are they more in pen as a potential duo to start the season, Walman and Nurse?
I think that's pretty likely that's going to be the case. I think in talking to Jake the end of last year about playing right or left, because we have just the two righties in Emerson, Stetcher, and Bush. The guys who play a lot of the minutes. We're trying to find out who's the best partner for Darnell. And last year, Stetch did a very good job at that. So I'm not overlooking that. But Jake indicated that he loves to play left or right. He just prefers to sort of stay wherever he is. So if he's going to play on right, then he'd probably rather just stay there, and then he can get more acclimated. But the way that Jake moves around on the offensive blue line with the puck, and he's got a really good one-timer, it's nice to have him on the offside as a threat. So I think there's a good chance that he and Darnell will be together.
You okay?
Yeah.
You've been in the goalie market for a long time and not really pulled the trigger on anything. Now you start a new season with the guys that were here last year. I guess I would ask you to characterize, how do you approach your goalies? I mean, I think the hockey world is aware that there was an attempt to improve in the goaltending here. It never happened. You're going back with the same guys. How do you, what do you say to Stu Skinner? How do you send him out there with confidence when you've been trying to improve on them, perhaps?
I think that's just part of the game, though. I think it maybe gets more attention because there's only 2 goalies on a team as opposed to we're trying to improve our team. You could make the same argument when you bring a new defenseman in, does that get the other defenseman? I guess the difference is a lot of defensemen play at the same time and only one goalie plays. I don't think that's an issue for at least in my conversations with Stu. He hasn't mentioned that. And I just really like his attitude coming in. I think he trained hard this summer, and he looks to have like a refreshed approach to the year. We have a new goalie coach, and he and Peter really seem to have formed a bond together. They spent a lot of time this summer, just talking hockey, and there's a great vibe around that right now. And I think that was something I thought about was, he's a talented goalie, and when he's at his best, he's really good. So if we can get the consistency in Stu's game, and I think maybe sometimes a different voice could help tap into that. And I think, the early returns are very positive. We haven't even skated yet in training camp, though. So we'll see where it goes. But I'm optimistic. I think that, this is a new year. I don't want to live in the past. And then Pick had a great season last year, ultimate competitor, wins big games for us. So we're always monitoring it. I mean, the goaltending position is no different than the forwards. We're on the lookout. If there's a ability to upgrade on that, we'll do it. But I think the focus right now is let's see with a bit of a different approach heading in if we can capture more consistency with Stu.
So if you could suffer one more Connor McDavid question, I apologize in advance.
That's all right.
People are live streaming, watching this press conference with grave concern, watching to find out what you're saying about Connor McDavid. Our bosses, certainly my boss phoned me this morning, said, find out what's going on with Connor McDavid, the entire country, the hockey world, certainly this city and the fan base. What would you say, like, you're a pro, I know you're not freaking out and you're not all nervous and losing sleep here. A lot of fans are. What would you say from your experience to the fans that could let them try to just chill a little on this thing?
It's hard. I get it. I understand that. There's a lot of anxious or anxiety, whatever the word is, anxiousness. I think I trust what Connor says. I mean, really, at the end of the day, when Connor says there's nothing that he wants more is to win in Edmonton, I believe him. I don't know why anyone else wouldn't. Like, he's been consistent in saying that, and I love hearing it when he says that's his singular focus is to win in Edmonton. So for me, I take it at face value, and I have no reason to question him. So, and I understand why he wants to go through. Whenever you're making a big decision, you want to make sure it has to feel right. And whenever that moment comes, maybe it's going to be 2 days from now or 3 days from now or 2 weeks from now, whenever it is, then he'll be ready. And I think until that happens, me asking him that or saying anything is not going to change that. It's up to Connor, and I understand that.
You talked about wanting to integrate some young players, and you've got a couple in Savoy and Howard. I guess I would ask, in your mind, are their names in pencil or pen? Like, do they have to play their way off the team at this point? Where their contract status?
That's a good question. I haven't really looked at it like that. I guess we've been talking the last year that the desire to break some younger players in and bring some speed and enthusiasm into our lineup, and I think both Savoy and Howard have those attributes to their game. So I would say that we're hopeful that they're going to come in and have a good camp. And so I think, I guess it depends on how you look at it. I'm looking at it with an optimistic lens, saying that I think they're going to bring an element that we need on our team, and I think we want some of that. And you have to be willing with younger players to give them a little bit of latitude. And I think this is probably the time where we're at with those two. So it's not a definitive answer, but I think I'm looking at it more optimistically, thinking that the expectations will be high for both of them, but we're going to try to work with that and recognize that the players they are in October is not the players they're going to be in March. And I think you have to allow for some progression over the season. And as long as they're bringing the effort, I think our coaches are excited to work with both of them.
If this question catches you a little off guard, you were asked about goaltending earlier, and there's a player who's now a free agent and come out, and that's Carter Hart. I wonder if there's any consideration into signing him.
No, I like right now we're not looking at those types of situations. I really like I referenced earlier to Mark, I like where Stu's at with his the way he trained and his outlook coming into the year. So I think we're going to go forward with that.
Stan, we talked last year about not trying to win this year's Stanley Cup with last year's team.
Right.
Last year, some of the guys admitted it was harder to turn the page. And this year, we get a sense that they've been able to do that a little easier for whatever reason. Maybe it's the second time is a little easier to get over. Mm-hmm. How are you seeing the team going into the season having been able to, turn the page a little easier than maybe they did a year ago?
I think a couple things are going to. I agree with you. I think it's a little different. I think we have a different staff too, which is there's a lot of newness to our group. We have a new goalie coach, we have a new skills coach, new assistant coach, and we have some new players, younger players coming in. So I think that combination of factors has made it. I don't know if that's why it's been that. I don't know if the players, instinctively feel differently because of that. But I think that plays a role. This really is much different than it was a year ago. Like a year ago, it was more we're trying to just go back and do the same thing. We're so close. Now we've got a lot of new players. We've got new coaches. We've got sort of a different outlook on things. And I think I do believe, I've said this a few times, I think change is good. And I think bringing some new ideas to the table, that's not disparaging the people that were here before. I just think when you have the same group for such a long time, sometimes you're too close to it, and you bring in some new voices from outside that they're not biased by anything. They're just coming in fresh, and so I think we'll see that even with the way we utilize our special teams. I think we'll see some different looks tactically, and we're not going to be a way different team, but I do think we're going to play some things differently, which then as a player, you feel like, well, this is different, and you're focused more on where we're headed, not where we came from.
Stan, looking at the young guys, Savoy and Howard, you're a cup contending team. It's hard for rookies to make cup contending teams. What will you need to see, do you think, from those guys to crack this lineup?
Well, on the one hand, I agree it's hard, but on the other hand, I actually think it's good to have some youthful enthusiasm, because I've referenced this before. They haven't played. I mean, Savoy's played a couple games in the NHL, but every new building he goes to is like a new experience. He's just excited to go play a road game in Calgary. He's never been there before and played for the Oilers. So same thing with Ike. He's never played in any NHL building. So I think what we're looking for from them is, and I think some of that youthful enthusiasm, it can be contagious to our group. And I think it's a tough year. It's a grind getting through the 82 games. So having some players that haven't experienced it before, for them, for our team, it may just be a random Tuesday night in November. But for them, it's like they're excited. This is like their big moment. They get to play in Madison Square Garden, right off the hop. So I think that I've just seen it with other teams I've been on. The other guys sort of, not that you get jaded, but when you've been in the league for 10 or 15 years, it's not the same level of excitement as when you first started. So I think, what can they do on the ice? I think they bring a lot of flair to the game. Offensively, they are dangerous players with the puck, and they make things happen. They can bring you out of your seat. They're guys that are going to be contributing offensively to our team. So I think that's where we'll see it. And of course, there's going to be a learning curve because they're playing against much better players now than they were in the American League or in the NCAA. So everything that they were able to do last year will be harder. But the flip side is they're going to be playing with much better players than they were playing with. So, where does that net out? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I think we're looking for them to, with anything, I tell these young players, like, your effort and your attitude is really what you can control. Like the execution, at the end of the day, you want them to execute. But as long as they bring the effort and the determination, which I think both of them will, then I think the coaches can live with the growing pains.
Stan, what was your reasoning to give Frederick an 8-year contract so quickly after he was traded for and then was hurt in the playoffs?
That was really a factor with just the overall picture of what Freddie brings to the table. So he's a younger free agent, so 27 years old. The ability to play multiple positions, the type of player that he is. If you look around the league, they're in pretty short supply. So as a result, that plays into when you're negotiating with them. If we had chosen not to pursue Freddie, or if we couldn't get a deal done, it's not like there was 10 other guys that are pretty equivalent players. We'll just get one of them instead. So I think he's got a unique skill set that's in short supply. So when that's the case, then you have to look at what your options are. You're always looking at, well, what if we don't sign him? We didn't have to sign him, but we felt that it made sense based on also his character. Like he's a very important guy to the fabric of our team. And in a short amount of time, he brings an element that we don't have a lot of. And I think he brings an element that's important to winning, which is that competitive intimidation factor. And on top of that, he can play center or wing, and he's comfortable moving around the lineup. So I'm expecting good things out of him now that he's feeling much better.
One more for me. With no draft picks, was your reasoning we got to sign a whole pile of Europeans and stuff like that to fill out at least the minor league roster and then see where they go from there?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just European players. I think it's free agent players. But, there's a lot of different ways to do it in the NHL. I think some teams are focused all on draft picks, and there's nothing wrong with that strategy. But where we are in our evolution as a team, we're trying to, those draft picks that you utilize are unless you're picking in the top 5, those guys aren't going to help you for a couple of years. So it's a trade-off. We're bringing guys in that can help us right away, whether it's Walman or guys like that. They're going to help our team compete right now. So how do you backfill it so that you still have players that are growing in their development? And that's the approach that I think makes the most sense right now. Maybe it won't always be that way, but for now, with what we want to do and with our player development group having really taken a bigger role, it's important to get the talent from wherever we can, whatever age they are, and then seeing if they, in a year or two, can become the players we want them to be.
And one last one, Regula. You didn't get the chance to see him last year. What did you see in him to pick him up on waivers in the first place?
Yeah, I had traded for Alec, excuse me, when I was in Chicago, so I'm familiar with his talent. It's probably more based on potential. Like, I think he's only played over 20 games in the NHL, so it's a very small sample. But we think developmentally, he's got a lot of likable characteristics. He's only 25, and it was unfortunate that he had to work through that injury last year, and he's feeling great right now. He's a big right-handed defenseman with some skill, and he can play the game a couple different ways, whether it's the penalty kill or power play. He's kind of got some versatility there. So I think he's someone we need to get him back playing, so we need to watch him grow. But I think I'm optimistic. I think he's got a chance. When you look at his skill set, when he gets his game back after being out for a bit, I think he'll be a useful player for us. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm doing well.
Morning, Chris.
Morning, Derek.
How'd you golf yesterday?
Ugly as usual.
I'll get this question out of the way. Obviously, I just want to ask you about the team mentality with Connor's insecurity beyond this season. Does that affect the team at all anyway, or how is everyone kind of approaching that in the room?
I think this group can handle pretty much anything, and they've seen pretty much anything. And it's not a young group, so there's been a lot of situations where these players have gone through similar circumstances. Obviously, not the circumstance of having a player at Connor's level, not going into his last year contract, all that stuff. But I think everyone's been through it long enough that that I don't think it'll be a distraction. And also, there's a team that's very focused, dedicated, and just worried about doing the best that they can do. So, I don't think that's going to be much of an issue.
There's a level of anxiety around the city because he hasn't been signed. Is that sheltered from the team? Is there no anxiety around the organization as well, as far as you're concerned?
No, I think it's calm. It's, you've seen Connor and everyone interacts with him as they've always done throughout his career. And everyone's just, I think right now the focus is just getting the season going, getting training camp going. So obviously it's a big story and you guys have a lot to write about, but I think Connor's earned the right to take his time, decide what he wants to do and, what kind of details that are important to him. That's about all I have to say about it.
Jake Walman joined the team last year. What do you think of the opportunity now for him to be on the club for an entire season, and how does he sort of round things out on the D-corps?
Well, we're very optimistic about our defense as a whole. Everybody feel that we got a great unit that can play as well as any group in the NHL, and Jake being a big part of that. And also Jake being the flexibility of him being able to play the left side, right side, but I think it's really important to try and keep him on one side as much as possible, and that'll probably be on the right side considering how many lefties we have. And, I think he played some of his best hockey last year being on his right side. And who his partner is, we'll see. Maybe it's Darnell, maybe it's somebody else, but we saw him be able to play really well with multiple players. And I think that's a good trait to have as a player, that you are flexible, that you can complement other guys. And but Jake's obviously a really good hockey player. I learned a lot about him, after the trade. He's a competitive guy. He's sacrificed his body to block a lot of shots. He's fun to be around. He likes the game of hockey, and when he's playing well, which is quite often, he's a really good player for us.
And two of the younger players that I think a lot of us are looking at are Savoy and Howard. What do you want to see from them in the preseason? And I guess for you to really find out what they can do, do you need to put them with other offensive players through the games?
I think the most important part of it is finding out how ready they are for the NHL. And it's tough to come to the NHL and, they are players who have typically played with best players. And it's also difficult, if they are put in that position, they are playing with our best players, they're playing against other teams' best players, and that's quite a load for a young player. And I think training camp, we want to find out exactly where they are, how they'll help our team, and who they'll complement, and what players will complement them the most. So I don't think I've got a clear indication right now that they have to play in this role or else somewhere else. I don't see it that way. So I think training camp's about earning a spot, finding an identity as a team, who and what lines mesh, that kind of thing. And I don't think it's important for a coach to say this is what our lines are going to be from day one and this is how we're going to move forward, because we've got a lot of uncertainties. We're missing about half our forwards from last year's Stanley Cup run, so there's going to be a lot of fluctuation. And I'd prefer that there wasn't fluctuation. I would like to have the certainty, but we've got some to start.
You also have a new coaching staff. Just a thought on, was there a concerted effort to make sure there was a philosophical alignment with who you brought in? Because when you initially came in, obviously Gully was already here, and Paul came in with you. So how different has it been with this new staff? And it's really, quote unquote, your staff now.
It is. I'm really optimistic about it. We've had some great weeks together with meetings and talking about hockey. And all these guys, I didn't know very well or at all before. The only one I knew a little bit was Paul McFarland, coached U17's Team Canada for about a week or two. But other than that, nobody else. And, the time that we spent with them, I've felt that we're very fortunate to hire the guys that we did. And as for being aligned philosophically, it's good to be aligned, but you don't want to be completely aligned, because also you want a staff that also challenges the head coach on, obviously the head coach has a lot of ideas and he throws them out there. You don't want a staff that just says, yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah, that's the right way to do things, because you're not evolving. You're not getting better. And you want some coaches that see things differently, whether it's a little more offensive minded or maybe some defensive minded. And, there's not one right way to play the game, but I think if you've got some guys who think a little bit differently, that it helps the group. And, I love their hockey minds. They're very hardworking, and I'm really looking forward to working with them throughout the year.
Your penalty killing was great in the final in 2024, but it wasn't good enough last year. Are you going to make some structural changes to how you PK? Obviously, you're going to have some different forwards. You'll have the same defense, but are you going to change things up a bit because you've got the same coach coaching the PK?
Yeah, penalty kill's changing quite a bit. Well, one, with personnel, we lose a lot of the forwards, but also with our strategy and what we want to do. And now for the personnel, who we feel that we've got many options of guys who can kill, and we want to find out which ones are the best at doing it, but also giving guys roles within our team and not having guys on the ice too much. And I think the exhibition games, we will see kind of a test period of which players are grasping the concepts and are really good in that role. So, fortunately, we have 8 exhibition games, so we have a lot of opportunities to try out those guys, and then we'll find out who the best are. And now, as for strategy, so we're making some changes, and probably a little more of what you see other teams doing. I think we were kind of an outlier last year. I think there was probably 3 teams that were killing systems similar to what we were doing, and we're kind of more meshing to what more the rest of the league's doing.
Kris, you've got a few guys, Henrique, Nugent Hopkins, Tomasek, even Trent Frederick, that could play center or wing. How do you kind of foresee that at the start? And if there's some trial by fire, when do you want to maybe get things settled and kind of have a cohesive kind of group and plan for them?
Yeah, there's some things I want to see, and if they can do it, if they can play center, and some of the guys coming in that, whether they have a really good opportunity to make the team, or we expect them to be on the team, or maybe they're returning. I think of playing center, maybe, Tomasek, Phil, Lazar, those kind of guys who are, not core piece of our team, but we feel that they could be a part of it. And, as for like Nugent Hopkins, obviously we know that he can play center and wing. Henrique has majority played center. I think early on he'll play some left wing because I certainly know that he can play center. So give those other guys opportunities. Trent Frederick for us played all wing, and typically through his time in Boston, a lot of it's been on the right side, but he has played a lot of center. And during training camp, we'd like to see how that feels for our team. So he'll have a lot of time playing the middle here in training camp and exhibition, and then we'll find out exactly what we want for our centerman.
Seems to be on some uncertainty. We don't know the answer fully, but about Zach Hyman's status after his injury last year. What do you think about he typically obviously plays with McDavid on his right side, how that's going to kind of formulate here at camp, and do you want to see some different guys there just given,
Yeah, we'll give some chances, guys who played right wing, and we just talked about Frederick being a possibility of being a right winger, where he fits in the lineup. Freddie's been typically a lot of playing on the right side. Tomasek, Mangiapane, obviously. We got Savoy playing right side. Kapanen. We have a lot of options, and we're just trying to feel what's best for our line or for our group. And we would like to kind of get a third line that's hard to play against, maybe more of a checking role, a little more physicality. So who those guys fit on that line might take away of somebody that might be able to play up in the top six. I just don't want to commit to something and commit to it and then find out it doesn't work. So I think we're very open-minded on a lot of possibilities.
So, Chris, further to that, for day one of camp, who get the opportunity to start with McDavid on the right side?
You're going to have to wait till we do have the roster, and before I announce it to you guys, I would like to let my players see it before I let you guys know. So.
That's fair. A guy like Noah Philp, obviously it's hard to crack the lineup. Probably more of what would you need to see from Philp throughout preseason training camp where he could get a chance maybe to be on the opening day lineup?
Well, I think about the NHL and what a lot of press conferences and post-game or messages from coaches, and it's a lot about getting faster and stronger as a team. And, there's a guy that he can skate, he can move, he can make our team faster. The size of him, he can make our team more physical, stronger. So if he's playing like that, that certainly helps us. Now there's obviously other attributes that he can bring. Can he make a play? Can he, how well does he play defensively and all that stuff? But I think overall, just that identity of him playing fast and physical really helps our group. We've got a lot of skilled players. You look at the contributions Kapanen made in the playoffs when he came into the Vegas series. He wasn't inserted because of his goal scoring, even though he did provide us a very important goal in that series in overtime. But, he added a lot to that series just with how much he was moving around the ice and the amount of hits he had. Like, he was a presence. And I'm not saying Noah Philp's going to play like Kapanen. Everyone's got their different identity. But I think if he can bring a little bit of that element, he helps our team. And, I think our team could always use more of that.
When you have young guys like Savoy and Howard and you want opportunities or offensive-minded players, you come in with a clean slate, or do you call Colin Chalk and ask him about Savoy and talk to him maybe when he's in here at camp, and even Howard's coach in Michigan, just to kind of get a sense of who they are? Because training camp really isn't that long of a time, for somebody really maybe get 6 games at the most, and some of those aren't against NHL players.
Yeah, a lot of conversations within our staff, whether that's in Bakersfield or our professional scouts, our general managers. Stan and I have conversations, a lot of Callie, just these guys who've seen these players a lot and knowing where they excel and who their centerman was and who they, what kind of role they played and did they penalty kill and, does Savoy take face-offs? He was a centerman in junior and, all those kind of things. So, I get that information as much as possible now. As much as you know him as a player in whether it was college or junior or the American League, that doesn't always add up to the NHL. But hopefully you use that information to help him get acquainted to our organization and put him in a position to excel as much as possible.
Right, Kris, with Howard and Savoy, like all rookies need time to develop in season and become players. But at the same time, this team's in a win-now mode. So do they have to be effective top six forwards right out of the box, or do you have a couple of months for them to kind of get their feet?
No, I absolutely don't think that for them to make this team, or they have to be playing with top guys and have to be in a prominent role. Certainly, our organization wants these guys to succeed and get into the top six and be there by Christmas and be there for years to come. That's definitely the goal of our, but, I don't think it's beneficial for the team and certainly not beneficial for the players if you put them in a position that they're not quite ready for. Because if they're in line 1 or line 2 on opening night and it doesn't work out and then they bump down to line 3, it's going to be it's a disappointment. He was on line 2, now he's on line 3, and it can only go down. I don't know. I think it's really important that they're in a good spot, and we want to build them up. And hopefully down the road, whether it's by Christmas time, playoff time, or wherever it is, whenever they're ready, that they do get up into that prominent role, because we want them to get there.
Morning, Kris. After back-to-back Stanley Cup final trips and after being here for the last couple of weeks and with the players trickling in, how would you describe the energy and the approach from the collective group as training camp opens compared to last year?
Last year was a little bit of felt like we were just kind of picking ourselves up off the floor. And whether that was a Game 7 loss where we felt we're so close, or maybe the changes to our lineups, or I'm not sure what it was, or just the fact that we've got the experience of getting to a Stanley Cup final and then having to do it again. But I like where our guys are. They're very professional and they're very excited to get going again. And hopefully we can maintain that and have a good training camp, some good exhibition games, so we are ready for a strong start to the regular season.
Kris, what were you feeling when Zach Hyman got hurt so late in the playoffs and you knew you were going to this Stanley Cup final and the amount of minutes he plays and such, and what were you thinking?
Well, probably two thoughts. One was we're going to miss him tremendously. Hopefully, when the injury first happened, hopefully it's not long, but then when you find out what the injury was and that you're going to lose him, first thing is kind of regret or just feeling maybe lost without him kind of thing. But then you have to obviously move on very quickly and find out who's going to step up. Who's that guy going to replace Zach Hyman? Because, the way Zach was playing, the skating, the forechecking, the physicality, he was quite a pest and gave our team a lot of energy. Very difficult to replace, and there's a guy that can score some pretty big goals for you. And so I guess when we lost him, it was finding out who that next guy up was. And, obviously there wasn't one guy. It was kind of collectively trying to replace him. So Zach Hyman's a very important piece to this team. 2 years ago, you look at all the goals he scored, and it was very evident that, wow, he's a valuable player. And last year, not scoring as many goals, but still contributing quite a bit. And then you saw him, what he did for us in the playoffs. So, we want, hopefully he's able to join us very quickly after the regular season starts. And then, hopefully it's quick.
You mentioned you'd like a physical third line. Do you see Frederick perhaps playing center like Lowry plays center in Winnipeg, where they say, you know what, we're a shutdown guy, big, strong guy?
Yeah, that'd be great if you can. It's, I have not seen him play center. So it's unfair for me to say this is exactly what I expect from him. And it's not just up to him. If we want to create that line, he's going to have to play with, some good support players also. So, if he can play at that level, that's great. I think Trent probably doesn't get enough credit for his offensive ability. I don't think he's ever been put in a situation to play in the top six. I think not that he's going to finish top scoring or anything like that, but he does have pretty good hands. But he's always been pretty much kind of slotted in that third line role. With some opportunities, maybe he can excel and score a bit more. But, I think he can be a pretty good role player on that shutdown third line center. That's a possibility also.
One last one. Last year of your contract, how worried are you? You don't have a contract. I know the city's worried about Connor's. So what about you?
I think that obviously the city would be much more concerned about Connor, and I'd be surprised if anyone knew that I was going in my last year of my contract because of everything else that's going on. So, hopefully when things get, we'll move on that quickly, hopefully. And but yes, I am on my last year contract, and hopefully something gets done before we get going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We know how players love talking about contract stuff, but Stan Bowman indicated that there's been some preliminary discussions. I believe you have Wade Arnott as your agent. Just a thought on, after you kind of bounced around a bit, St. Louis, Detroit, San Jose. This is a good team, and they want you to stay. A thought on that potential carrying forward here.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that I'm very appreciative to be in this position. Kind of been brought in last year to play a role, and I can tell you one thing, that I enjoy the city. I enjoy playing hockey here, and I think that it's most importantly a great fit for myself, and hockey-wise and family-wise. I think my family loves that I'm in a Canadian market now, and I've enjoyed my time here. So that's what I know for sure. I enjoy being here, and the hockey's great. So I'll leave it at that.
Jake, you played left defense and right defense. You played right with Darnell. Stan was mentioning earlier it might be better for you if you just were told, okay, you're playing right side now as opposed to moving back and forth. Is that your feeling as well?
Yeah, just some stability is kind of what I've been after. I can play both sides, but I think off the bat, I think the right side is probably where I'll stick for a bit. And like I said, I'm comfortable kind of everywhere, but I think I have a great connection, especially with Doc there playing the right. So if that's where I am, we'll embrace that. And then going forward, I'm comfortable kind of anywhere. So, yeah.
A lot of defensemen don't want to move back and forth. You know, if you're an NHL player, you want to say, okay, I'm my left side. Why are you different?
I think there's some things that open up on the right side, especially in the O zone. I'm a guy that likes to create things in the offensive zone, so I think being on the right, there's a little more to exploit that you can't necessarily do on your strong side. But there's obviously, maybe for some players, an adjustment period. You have to turn a different way, you have to look a different way. So it's a little bit of adjusting. But, like I said, the stability of kind of being on that right side, kind of getting in the groove, that's the biggest thing that I'm kind of after. If I'm playing the right, I'd like to kind of stick on the right, but you never know, it could flip-flop.
you were pretty open about looking forward to playing meaningful games and playing in the playoffs. What was it like going from a couple playoff games to adding 20-something to your resume?
Yeah, it was great. It was everything I kind of wished for and hoped for in my career at this point. And like I said, I think I'm right where I wanted to be. I'm right where I need to be, and had that taste. And as a competitor and who I've been kind of growing up, I just wanted that much more. So the taste was great, but I want the full thing.
You've had a lot of seasons where you're in April and you're getting ready for the off season. What was it like to be at the end of June and having a much shorter off season for the first time in your career?
Yeah, it was different. Had to really plan my summer because I tried to fit everything in. But yeah, the difference in a short summer, I'll take that every year. To do what we did and ultimately get to the end. So, yeah, it was different. I had a few weddings, and then the other weekends I had to prioritize friends and family, but really happy to be back in Edmonton.
Jake, Stan and Kris have talked about a little bit, enjoying the process more. Obviously, it's hard, and if you just focus on the Cup in October, it can maybe drive you crazy, and you have to have fun. Do you feel your personality matches? Can you be a guy who can keep things loose and kind of enjoy the moment throughout the season more? And is that something that you'll do more now that you kind of know the guys more than when you came in late in the year?
Yeah, that's part of my MO. I like to keep it light, and the season's a grind. It's up and down, and these guys did it the year before. They battled back all the way to that same point, so they know that it's up and downs, and just trying to kind of assimilate and be a part of that, jump in and talk where I can and kind of keep it loose and light where I can. But I'll tell you, in this room, it's all business, and when it comes down to it, and you got to win, these guys know what to do. So just trying to assimilate and be a part of that, and I think it's been great for my career, and it'll be great for my career going forward, being with this group.
You mentioned the advantages of playing your offside. In the offensive zone, it opens up more. What about on the penalty kill? Is it better on the left side? Is there challenges of being a lefty on the right side on the PK?
Penalty kill is probably, I would say, where I enjoy the most on the right side. I like to block shots, and I just think going down on that side is a little easier. You can see the play more. Yeah, I think penalty kill is one of the ways that a righty on D, for me at least, it's more enjoyable. Yeah.
Hey guys. Who wants the first one?
I'll ask the first one. Zach, how are you feeling? How's the injury? And do you feel like, are you going to be ready for training camp? Just give us an update, basically.
Sure. Yeah, I feel great. Obviously, no more cast. Moving great. Won't be ready for day one of training camp, but progressing really, really well.
Do you have a timeline in terms of when you could be on the ice?
I'm on the ice. Yeah, I'm skating, just not with the team yet. Yeah.
Is there a realistic target date that you could share with us? Start of the regular season? How far into training camp do you foresee yourself playing any preseason games?
I've had major surgery before with the knee, and then whenever you set a timeline or a date, you often get disappointed if you don't hit that date, and then you tell people what the date is, and if the date comes and you're not ready for that date, then it's disappointment. So for me, internally with the group, we have little 2-week blocks milestones that we check off and that we hit, and right now we are progressing very well.
Zach, how does a person train in the summer when you can't do any, obviously, pushing, and your game is pushing people and battling, and your cardio must be great, but what about the rest of it?
No, I mean, that's part of coming back, right? I was in a cast for a while there, so anytime you're in a cast, you're immobilized, and then you got to get out of it and get your strength back. So in that mode right now, and feel great, and it's different than a lower body injury. For an upper body injury, I'm able to train my legs the entire summer. I'm able to skate. I'm able to do everything that I need to do, minus making sure that my wrist is okay. And now we're in the stage where we're really pushing the envelope and building strength back into the wrist. And like I said, very, very happy with how things have progressed, and very confident that whatever date I return on, I'll be back to normal and ready to go.
Getting hurt so late in the playoffs, how disheartening was that? If you'd got hurt in the first game of the playoff,
Yeah.
you said, "Oh, I got a long way to go yet." But that late, what went through your mind?
I don't know if it would have been different if I got hurt in the beginning. Like I remember, Eki was hurt for the beginning of the playoffs, and it was pretty disheartening for us and for him. And then it just so happened that when I got hurt, he was coming back in the lineup. So it was nice on that front. So anytime you get hurt, whether it's at the beginning of the playoffs or midway through or near the end like I did, it's definitely disheartening because for me, I knew immediately pretty much that my season was over, and you kind of flip focuses to just trying to help the team in a different way, in an emotional support way, and just being around the guys and being positive. But yeah, when it happened, very, very disheartening.
Now, you're 33 now. You're not an old 33 because you've only played 650 games. Is that the way you look at it? Some guys are 33 and they've played 1,000 games already, and you're saying,
"Sure,
man, my body's worn out." But you still look at it, your age doesn't matter?
I mean, I feel great. I feel really good. When I signed my contract, I was old. So that's what everybody said. So like I'm 33. I feel great. And I feel excited. Anytime you have an injury, you're excited to come back because something's been taken away from you, right? Like I wasn't able to play in the finals. It's different, right? You're working towards a goal to get back, and there's excitement behind that. So crazy as it sounds, I feel rejuvenated with this whole process and getting back to feeling normal and getting back into game shape. And I'm just excited for the year and being able to rejoin the guys.
Just for the record, before we go to DNB, Jim Matheson he's a young 70-something.
You look great, Jim.
Hey, Zach. As you mentioned, obviously you couldn't play in the final, right?
Yeah.
So how do you look at the two defeats there? Because you weren't as much a part of the second one.
Sure.
How do you kind of differentiate those two, I suppose?
Oh, there's, a team level and a personal level. Personal level is, they're very different for me. Obviously, one I was playing in and very active in and a big part of, and the other I wasn't on the ice and I was more in the background. So completely different, obviously, for me. So it's hard to me to speak to what was going on the ice. I had a view in the stands near you guys, right up top. On a team level, you'd like to think, there's obviously disappointment both years. Hopefully with this past year, we are better able to overcome it quicker, right? I think last year we had a little bit of a lull to start, and it could be a cup hangover, when you don't win and you got to regroup pretty quickly and get ready for the next year. There's a lot of, it's just you're human. There's a lot of disappointment, and it's tough to start a season again from the beginning. I think with this year, we've been through it. We're ready. We're hungry. We want to win, and we know that you can't. Nothing that happened in the past matters. It's a brand new season. Everybody starts at zero, and half the league thinks they're going to win the cup, and more than almost everybody thinks they're going to make the playoffs, right? So, yeah, I think we're excited.
Does it come down maybe this year more to preparedness in terms of like having been through it and knowing, kind of like you talked about the cup hangover, or is it maybe the way you lost that is providing a bit more of a different type of motivator than compared to the previous cup final?
I don't know about the way we lost. Like they're different. The first one was obviously more dramatic in the sense that we battled back, and last year was a little different. But I think I would say just experience. I think when you talk about, everybody talks about playoff experience, this is an experience where you've went all the way into the end of June, and you know what it's like to have a short summer and to kind of just get back at it. So the hope is that we're better prepared this year to handle that, because it's a quick turnaround.
Zach, obviously there's a lot of anxiety with Connor in his situation, and the interview yesterday didn't do much to quell that anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Just wondering, outside there's a lot of noise, but just wondering inside the room, how are you guys feeling about it, and are you guys been able to shelter yourselves from the anxiety that's kind of growing here the longer he stays on side?
I mean, I think he's earned the right to wait until he's comfortable. Like he's getting all this the press obviously because of who he is, but I'd say the majority of guys are playing their contracts into their contract year without an extension, right? So I know I did it myself, and I think he's shown nothing but a commitment to our group. We've dealt with a lot of noise as a team in the 4 years that I've been here, and Connor is the ultimate leader, captain, Oiler. Like he just wants to win. So there's no doubt in the locker room that that's where his mind's at, and whatever contract situation, that's between him and the team and management, I should say. And as players, we don't even really think about it. We're just going out there and we're trying to win this year. And yeah, he's been great. There's been no distraction in our room.
Zach, you're one of the kind of emotional leaders on your team, a vocal guy. If you're not ready to start the year, how do you what role do you play, to ensure the guys, Kris Knoblauch mentioned he feels this year's a little bit different than last year. Like there was maybe grief more last year after that loss, and it's not so much this year. How do you ensure, you get off to a better start? And even if you're not on the ice, what role can you play to help that?
Yeah, I think just being around the group. I'll be practicing with the team, I'm sure. So whether I start or not, I'll be around. Let's say that. It's not like I'm just getting injured where you're kind of away from the team. You're going to be with the team and supporting, and especially hopefully we got some young guys on the team too. So it's not an easy transition to the NHL. No matter who you are, they're growing pains. So hopefully be able to help out some of the young guys as well.
I want to pivot to Zach Hyman, the owner. Your first off season as an owner,
yeah.
And obviously lots of changes with NCAA, where
yeah.
of course you played. How did you, how do you feel to handle that, and how do you see that unfolding? And how it impacts, the whole hockey level. Really, it's even changed at the NHL because the draft rules for how long you hold on to players now afterwards. How that impact you from a business ownership side?
That's great. That's I love talking about this is perfect. Yeah, it was great. It was a great summer. I'm the governor of our team, so we had a board of governors meeting with all the different owners and governors out in Muskoka, so got to meet a bunch of the different owners, and that was obviously one of the key talking points. Several rule changes, one the NCAA rule change, obviously, and then two the American Hockey League potential rule change with the 19-year-olds being able to play. So definitely two things that are on the CHL's radar. I think that from my standpoint, I think it's all great things. Like when I was a 16-year-old kid, I wish I had the opportunity to play wherever I wanted to and not be restricted by rules. If that were the case, I would have played in the OHL, and then I would have gone on to college, and it would have been great. So for me, why we got into the OHL is to help develop and grow the game, help young players get to the next level, help use my experience to help those players. And whether that's college, the American League, or the NHL, it doesn't matter to me. However long they're with the Bulldogs, it's going to be our goal to make them the best players possible. And my brother's the general manager, so if you've seen some of the moves he's made, it's pretty remarkable. We have a really, really strong team, and all the credit goes to him. He's been amazing.
Does he need ownership approval on moves, or does he get to make the move without it?
I can talk all day about this. We'll be here for a while, but we work in tandem. We talk every day. He's got an unbelievable pulse on junior hockey and the OHL, and if you guys, I don't know if you guys are that interested in the OHL or the prospects, but he's made some pretty great moves. Whatever polls are meant to be, but all the media has us winning. So I told him he's got a lot of pressure on him. So it'll be a fun year. Okay, cool. Thank you, guys. Yeah.